What's up, guys? Coffee time. Remember, you can buy me a coffee, or you can support my Patreon, or you can cash at me. All of that is in the description below. So, let me get to what I was going to say. So, I think my last post I commented on Indiana Jones and why it looks like it's going to be a bad movie, just judging off the trailers. But to confirm it, there was an alleged plot leak on Twitter. I think it was on Twitter. And if the plot leak is real, then the movie is going to be as bad as some of us were afraid that it was. So within the plot leak, it's showing that basically, Indiana Jones is being led around by his goddaughter, and like she's just upstaging him throughout the movie. Like he's just following behind her, and apparently they get taken back to ancient Rome. And to stop this guy, is involving, you know time travel, of course, because when you run out of ideas, time travel, right? And apparently, he's like this broken down old man out in the movie. So from the last movie, if you haven't seen Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, you find out that he has a son played by Shia LaBeouf, um, and this is by his first love, Marianne, who he ends up marrying at the end of the movie. So even though it was a terrible movie, at least it was still a collaboration by Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and it had a happy ending. And it kind of led you to believe that maybe his son might carry on in his footsteps. No. So we find out that he's a broken down old man in the new movie because he's on the brink of divorce with Marion, and his son dies off screen. Like, basically, is uh, just alluded to that his son went to the Vietnam War and died and got killed. So his son is dead. His marriage is crumbling. So he really has nothing to live for. So at the end of the movie, to save everyone, they have to go back to the present, which I believe for them is 1969. And he doesn't want to go because he feels he has nothing to live for. He might as well stay in ancient times and live out the rest of his life there. So his goddaughter apparently knocks him out and takes him back to the present, where he wakes up, and I guess Marianne is back and she's trying to reconcile the marriage with him. But it just sounds horrible. Like, he was, why, just like Luke in The Last Jedi, they take the star of the movie and turn him into broken shambles of what they formerly were, to be saved by some Mary Sue. And the actress that plays his goddaughter is god awful, just from the trailer alone. And she's been in other movies where she plays this feminist, whatever you want to call it, type persona, and just very annoying. And it looks as bad as we are scared it might be, if and only if that plot leak is true. It may not be, but it probably, that plot leak sound like is probably true. I left out the gritty details, but apparently it's on Twitter if people want to look it up in general and see what it says. I'm not, like I said, 50-50 whether it's genuine or not. But if it is, it's confirming that the movie's probably going to suck. Now, some people are just going to see it for the love of Harrison Ford, and I'm not going to begrudge anyone because I'm debating on going to see it myself, since I didn't see the last one in the movies. And I saw the of the original trilogy, I saw Temple of Doom um, in the movies, which was awesome. I think that one was the best one. And and then the one the one for the Holy Grail, which had Sean Connery playing Indiana Jones Sr. That was pretty good too. Like all three of the first three were good, but to be honest, when I was so little, the first one scared me, and I literally couldn't watch some of the scenes in Raiders of the Lost Ark until I was like a teenager, because the scene where their faces melted off from the angels coming to kill anyone who looked upon the ark was horrifying. Like, how did that get a PG rating? It was Temple of Doom that, for people who don't know, actually broke Hollywood and made them start making PG-13 ratings, because it was just too much for Hollywood. Apparently, ripping a man's heart out of his chest while it was still beating, that prompted a PG-13 rating afterwards. So you can thank Indiana Jones for that. But I could, for some reason, I was still able to watch that, but I couldn't watch the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark with the melting faces, nor the guy who got cut up by the propeller. That was just too much for me. Like that, I don't know how that was PG. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark was definitely dipping on R rating, but that was the '80s. In any case, I'm ranting. Like I said, Dial of Destiny looks like it's going to be a horrible movie, but if people want to see it just for the love of the franchise, because it was such a lovable franchise back in the '80s, as well as they had a young Indiana Jones Chronicles back in like 1992, not to be confused with the one that came out in the 2000s, unless that was a reboot of the one from the 90s. But there was a young Indiana Jones Chronicles from like 1992 to 1993. And by the way, all the stuff is on Disney Plus now. Like they're doing some good stuff. While they are removing a lot of content that didn't do well to save money, I think they're gonna write off like $180 billion by removing content from both Disney Plus and Hulu. And they're going to combine Disney Plus and Hulu into one streaming service, as I mentioned in the previous video. But they're also adding stuff. Like, so they added all the Indiana Jones movies, because they didn't own the rights. Although they own Lucasfilm, they didn't own the rights to the original trilogy of Indiana Jones films, because that was produced by Paramount, I believe. They only own the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, I think, because that came out in 2007, before George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney. But I think that was the only one they no, they didn't. I don't think they even had rights to that one either, since that was prior to the deal. They owned the rights to the character, but not to the previous movies. So now they have all the movies and the 2000 TV show on there. So if you guys want to check out the old movies, if you never watched Indiana Jones, check it out, and you'll see why it's gonna be looking pretty bad for the new movie. All right, but my rant is over. Again, you can buy me a coffee, or hit me on the Cash App, support the Patreon, and I have Venmo as well. I always forget the Venmo thing, but apparently some people prefer Venmo over Cash App. I don't know if that's a Coke versus Pepsi thing, but I'll accept either, guys. I appreciate any support. All right, later.